Thanks for joining us on this web exclusive. I'm Kelly Sullivan, joined by Eyewitness News analyst, retired Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. In general, we're learning about the British military bombing Saddam Hussein's palace, and it was being used for ISIS training. But what was it used before?
Well, in 2005, the Rhode Island National Guard 103rd Field Artillery used that as the headquarters. Colonel Joe Rooney was the commander of the artillery at the time, and he had the responsibility for not only that particular palace, but the surrounding area. So it obviously hits home because we had a significant number of soldiers using that as the headquarters for that particular area for Rhode Island National Guard. So when that appeared this morning, it hit home because it certainly has a local connection. So what used to be a magnificent palace, and I was there when I went to visit them in 2005, it was a magnificent palace, and unfortunately it's not there. But the good news is, obviously, that was being used as an ISIS headquarters or a collective training facility, and it's no longer there. So that's the good news. The bad news is it was a beautiful piece of real estate.
And so I guess the British military just had enough intelligence and was able to just go in and bomb the place?
Yeah. You know, that's the downside of this whole thing. Clearly, we need to target ISIS and all of its strongholds. Unfortunately, they don't have an appreciation of the magnificence of palaces and that kind of culture that was certainly of some kind of importance to that particular society at the time. So when that goes, all of the historical importance of the architecture and structures goes with it.
All right, switching gears now, North Korea, we're learning, firing, what, 2 more missiles and violating the UN rules again?
Right.
Is there anything that's going to stop them at this point?
Well, unfortunately, they're not paying attention to the UN sanctions. And what this might do is precipitate more sanctions, further isolating North Korea. The other side of that coin, unfortunately, is that they will probably continue to make it worse by firing more missiles and maybe escalating it more. They're doing this because there's a scheduled exercise to be held between the United States and South Korea. North Korea is looking at that as a threat to them. They're looking at it as perhaps a staging for an eventual invasion of North Korea, which is not the case as far as I know. So what we're seeing is they're reacting to this, and they're making it more of concern that they will go to a point where it will go beyond just testing a missile. These particular missiles that they launched in the last couple of days landed almost into Japanese waters, and that is a real concern if that ever had a response from either Japan or the United States.
So what do we do at this point? Is there anything we can do?
Well, you know, I've said this before, and unfortunately I'm not in a position of power, but I think what I would tell them is the next missile you launch, we're going to blow it up as soon as it leaves the launcher. And that has to be the process that we go through. Whether that has any significance or not, I'm not sure. Obviously, sanctions are not working unless the sanctions have an impact on the people of North Korea, then it will. But right now, it's not working.
All right, General, let's go back home and talk about what we saw at the DNC. The Khan family, they spoke talking about their son who lost his life fighting for our country, Muslim family, and, you know, the father held out the Constitution, claiming or saying that, you know, Donald Trump probably hasn't read this U.S. Constitution, Donald Trump firing back. And so now we have this Gold Star family kind of put in this political show, if you will. You work directly with Gold Star families. How are they taking all of this right now?
They're not taking it very well. You know, I understand the Khan family, and I have total respect for them. They lost a son. But at the same time, I think they're being looked at as an operative for the DNC. And at the same time, that's an opportunity for the Republican candidate to take advantage of that and do what he did. And we're not politicizing this, you and I, as we talk about it. What we're doing is talking about the impact that transaction has on the families. They're looking at it as this should not be talked about. It shouldn't be used as someone who gave the ultimate sacrifice, and all of a sudden it's become a politicalized scenario between the Democrats and the Republicans. That's not what a campaign should be about. And I think they're taking it personal that they don't want their families to be used as any kind of fodder between the candidates at this point.
All right, General, thank you so much, and thanks for joining us on this web exclusive.